My name is Amanda Lafferty, 48 years old. If someone had told me 5 years ago that my family would be torn apart by betrayal, I would have laughed. We were ordinary, steady, predictable. My husband Thomas and I had built a quiet life raising 3 children who, at least for a time, seemed inseparable. Sarah, the eldest, at 27, the one who always colored inside the lines. Emily, 25, fiery, clever, a little spoiled, but impossible not to love. And Alex, our youngest, 21, the peacemaker, always trying to make his sisters laugh when tension filled the room. Our home used to hum with warmth, Sunday dinners, inside jokes, the soft noise of family. I thought that meant we were unbreakable. I see now that comfort can be dangerous. It blinds you to the cracks forming underneath. 3 years ago, the first crack appeared. Sarah went through something. I still can't bring myself to say it out loud. Something that left her hollow, flinching at sudden sounds, crying behind closed doors. She stopped visiting us, as often stopped smiling. Jake, her husband at the time, seemed patient, comforting. He'd make her tea, rub her shoulders, promise he'd handle everything. I used to tell Thomas that man is an angel, but angels, I've learned, can fall too. It started small. Emily began spending more time at Sarah's house. Helping out, she said. Bringing groceries, watching TV with Jake when Sarah was too tired to talk. I thought it was sweet sisterly even. But sometimes when Emily left, there was a different energy in the air. Jake looked guilty, and Emily avoided eye contact. My gut twisted, but I pushed the thought away. Not my daughters, not in my family. Then one night, Sarah came to our house without calling. Her face was pale, her eyes glassy, and she looked like someone who had forgotten how to breathe. "Mom," she whispered. They were in our bed. At first, I didn't understand. "Who, sweetheart Emily?" she said. "And Jake." Everything went quiet. The clock ticked once. I remember my teacup slipping from my hand, shattering against the tile. Later that night, I confronted Emily. She didn't even cry. She just crossed her arms and said, "Well, someone had to take care of Jake since Sarah wouldn't." Her tone, so casual, so cold, made my blood run cold. "You're talking about your sister's husband," I said, my voice shaking. "Your sister who's been through hell." Emily rolled her eyes. "Sarah's not the only one who gets to be happy, Mom." For a moment, I forgot she was my daughter. I saw only a stranger, one wearing my child's face. I could have screamed, could have slapped her. Instead, I just stepped back and whispered, "Get out." "Excuse me, you heard me. Leave this house. Leave us alone until you understand what you've done." Her eyes flashed with fury. "You're choosing Sarah over me." "No," I said. "I'm choosing what's right." She laughed a sharp, bitter sound and stormed out. The door slammed so hard a picture fell from the wall. It was a family photo from 5 years earlier, Sarah and Emily, with their arms around each other, smiling. The glass cracked clean down the middle between them. Thomas came home later and found me sitting on the floor, still holding that broken frame. He didn't speak, just knelt beside me, wrapping his arms around my shoulders. Neither of us cried. We just sat there, staring at the pieces. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sarah's haunted face, Emily's defiant smirk, Jake's empty promises. I kept asking myself where I went wrong. Maybe I'd spoiled Emily too much. Maybe I'd taught her that love was something she could take instead of earn. The next morning, I told Emily she was no longer welcome in our home or in Sarah's life. "Until you face what you've done," I said, "you don't have a mother." She didn't beg. She didn't even blink. "You'll regret this," she said quietly. "You always protect the wrong one." Then she turned and walked away. As the door clicked shut, something inside me broke for good. I didn't know it then, but that was the last time I'd see the carefree version of my daughter, the one who laughed too loudly, who used to crawl into bed with me on stormy nights. She vanished with that slam of wood and wind. That evening, Sarah stayed in her childhood room silent. I sat in the hallway listening to her soft sobs through the door. I wanted to tell her everything would be okay, but the words stuck in my throat, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't sure they would be. I looked out the window and whispered to the night, "One day, Emily, you'll understand pain the way you gave it." It wasn't a wish for revenge, it was a mother's prophecy. A few months passed after Emily's exile, and though the house was quieter, peace never really returned. The silence carried a weight, guilt, anger, and the echo of things left unsaid. Sarah spent most of her days drifting between therapy sessions and long walks alone by the lake. She barely spoke, but when she did, her voice was hollow. "Maybe I drove him away," she once whispered, twisting the edge of her sleeve. "Maybe I wasn't enough." Every time she said that, it felt like a knife twisting deeper. I wanted to tell her that Jake's betrayal was about him, not her, that Emily's cruelty came from a place I no longer recognized. But words don't heal wounds that deep, they only echo inside them. Meanwhile, Emily and Jake were flaunting their relationship online as if nothing had happened. Pictures of them at brunch, smiling at some beach captions like "True love wins." I'd see the photos accidentally when Alex showed me his phone in disgust. "Can you believe this?" he asked one night, pacing the living room. "They're acting like they're celebrities, Mom." I didn't answer. I just stared at the glow of the screen at Emily's face, carefree, happy, unbothered. The same daughter who had ripped her sister's world apart. Thomas tried to stay calm. He'd always been the quiet one, the problem solver. But even he started to unravel. One night, after seeing another one of their posts, he muttered, "I don't know where we went wrong." I turned to him. "You didn't go wrong. We both did. We raised them the same way, but only one of them listened." Emily called one afternoon out of nowhere. Her tone was light, almost teasing. "Mom, you really should stop ignoring me," she said. "Jake and I are serious now. We're happy." I clenched my jaw. "Emily, do you even hear yourself? You destroyed your sister's marriage." She sighed dramatically. "Oh, please. Sarah was miserable. Jake told me she barely talked to him. We just connected." "You connected over her pain," I snapped. There was a long pause. Then she said, almost mockingly, "You'll come around eventually. You always do." That was the moment I realized she felt untouchable. She thought love, hers, Jake's, could justify anything. Sarah's therapist encouraged her to focus on herself. She started painting again, going out with friends, slowly piecing her confidence back together. I could see glimpses of my daughter returning the real one, but Emily's shadow lingered over everything. Then came the call from Alex one evening, his voice trembling with disbelief. "Mom, check your messages." He'd sent me a photo, a glittering diamond ring on Emily's finger. The caption read, "He put a ring on it. Forever love." I stared at the screen until the words blurred. It wasn't just betrayal anymore, it was mockery. I showed Thomas the post. His face hardened. "She's doing this to hurt Sarah," he said quietly. "She wants attention, even if it's poison." Sarah found out a few days later when a mutual friend mentioned the engagement. She just stared at the floor and whispered, "I knew they were together." But marriage. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just looked empty. That scared me more than tears ever could. I couldn't keep silent anymore. I called Emily. When she picked up, her voice was chipper. "Hey, Mom, did you see the news?" "Yes, I saw it," I said sharply. "You're engaged to the man who cheated on your sister. Do you have any shame left, Mom?" she said, sounding impatient. "You just don't understand. Jake and I are in love. What Sarah and Jake had, it's over. We're starting fresh." I laughed bitterly. "Fresh with someone else's leftovers." She gasped. "That's cruel." "Cruel." My voice cracked. "You want to talk about cruel? Try watching your eldest daughter break down in therapy because her sister destroyed her life." For a moment there was silence. Then Emily said coldly, "You're being dramatic. Jake's not who he used to be. He's changed." "Emily," I said, lowering my voice, "listen to me. If he cheated with you, he'll cheat on you. It's only a matter of time." She scoffed. "Jake's a different person with me. You'll see." And she hung up. That night I sat on the porch watching the rain, the sound of thunder drowning out the ache in my chest. I thought about every warning I'd ignored, the stolen glances, the nervous laughter, the way Emily used to defend Jake when Sarah wasn't around. I should have known. The next week, Emily sent a formal wedding invitation in the mail as if nothing had happened. A shiny gold envelope embossed with their names, Jake and Emily. Forever begins. Thomas opened it first. "She has no shame," he muttered, crumpling it in his fist. When Emily called again, I didn't let her speak. "Don't you dare ask us to come," I said. "You may be my daughter, but I will not bless a marriage built on your sister's tears." Her tone hardened. "You're being so unfair, Mom. Jake loves me. Why can't you just be happy for us?" "Because love built on betrayal doesn't last," I replied. Her voice trembled, but I couldn't tell if it was anger or pain. "You'll regret this," she whispered. "One day you'll see I was right." I wanted to believe she would never really go through with it, that she'd come to her senses. But deep down I knew she wouldn't. A week later, Alex came home furious after scrolling through his phone. She's already posting her bridal photos like she's some fairy tale princess. "Look." In one picture, Emily was in a white dress, smiling, Jake's hand resting on her stomach. The caption read, "A new beginning." I shut my eyes and felt the old anger burn again, not just at her, but at myself. I'd spent my whole life teaching my children right from wrong, and somehow one of them had learned how to smile through the wreckage. I stood by the window, staring out into the dark, and whispered to no one, "If she won't learn from love, maybe life will teach her instead." The day Emily got married, I didn't even open the curtains. The morning light felt like mockery. Somewhere in the distance, church bells rang faintly through the fog, soft, slow, and cruelly beautiful. I imagined her walking down the aisle in white, smiling like she hadn't stolen that dream from her own sister. Thomas sat at the kitchen table in silence, his hands wrapped around a cup of cold coffee. Neither of us had slept. When Alex came in, he tossed his phone onto the counter. They live-streamed it, he said bitterly. Hundreds of likes, comments saying they're couple goals. It's disgusting. I wanted to look, but I couldn't. Instead, I whispered, "Turn it off." That afternoon, I went into Sarah's old room. She wasn't there. She'd gone hiking with a friend, trying to distract herself. The room was dim and untouched, the faint scent of her perfume still in the air. On the dresser sat a framed photo, Sarah and Jake on their wedding day. Her eyes were full of love, his of pride. I stared at it until my reflection blurred into theirs. Then, without realizing it, I slid the photo face down. That night, I wrote in my journal for the first time in months. Emily married him today. I hope he treats her exactly the way she deserves. I didn't know if that was a prayer or a curse, maybe both. The following weeks crawled by. Our family stopped being a family. Phone calls went unanswered. Thomas and I only spoke when necessary: bills, groceries, chores. He was angry, but not at me, at the helplessness of it all. One night he sat beside me on the porch, staring at the dark yard. "I used to think love was what kept families together," he said quietly. "It isn't," I answered. "It's choices." Months passed. Sarah started smiling again, just a little. She painted, spent time with friends, even took a weekend trip alone. Each tiny step forward felt like proof that maybe somehow she could rebuild her life. Then, just as I started to breathe easier, life came back for its next cruel trick. It was a stormy night, the kind where the wind howls through every crack in the window. I was in the kitchen, cleaning up after dinner, when someone knocked fast, frantic, desperate. Thomas looked up from the living room. At this hour, I went to the door, my heart already uneasy. When I opened it, the world seemed to freeze. Emily stood there. Her hair was soaked. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, her hands trembling as she clutched a toddler in one arm and a baby carrier in the other. Her eyes were wild, haunted. "Mom," she whispered, voice cracking, "I need your help." For a long moment, I couldn't move. I just stared at her, the daughter I'd cast out, the one who'd ruined everything, standing on my doorstep like a lost child. Behind her, thunder rolled. The baby started crying. I stepped aside. "Come in." She hesitated, then crossed the threshold. The smell of rain and perfume filled the house. I fetched towels, set the baby down, and handed her a mug of tea, though her hands shook too much to hold it steady. For several minutes, she just cried. Then finally, between ragged breaths, the story came spilling out. Jake had been cheating. Again. Not just a one-time affair, he'd been seeing another woman for months, maybe longer. He'd drained their savings, lied about work trips, and when Emily confronted him, he'd turned violent, shouting, breaking things, calling her names that made my skin crawl. "I thought he loved me," she sobbed. "I thought I was different." I felt something twist inside me, an awful, confusing mix of anger, sorrow, and something dangerously close to pity. "Emily," I started but stopped. There were too many things I wanted to say. "I warned you. You destroyed your sister for this." But she looked so broken I couldn't add another wound. She wiped her face with the sleeve of her sweater. "I can't go back there, Mom. Please. I don't have anywhere else to go." I looked toward the hallway where the light from Sarah's old room spilled faintly across the floor. My voice came out small. "You can stay here tonight. We'll talk in the morning." She nodded, clutching her children closer. When I went to bed, I couldn't sleep. I just lay there listening to the faint sounds of her in the living room, the creak of the couch, the baby's soft whimpers, Emily whispering a lullaby through tears. Thomas turned to me in the dark. "What are we going to do?" "I don't know," I whispered. "Every choice feels wrong." Sometime past midnight, I got up and walked quietly to the living room. Emily was asleep, the baby in her arms, her toddler curled up on the rug beside her with a worn-out stuffed rabbit. In that fragile moment, they looked innocent again. Just children, even Emily. Her face peaceful, for the first time in years, looked like the little girl who used to sneak into our bed during thunderstorms. But the illusion didn't last. A faint bruise marked her wrist. I noticed it only when she shifted in her sleep. The sight of it made my chest ache. I wanted to reach out to pull her into my arms, but my hand froze halfway. Because behind that bruise was everything she'd done, every tear Sarah cried, every lie, told every cruel word. So I stepped back, whispering to the dark, "You wanted to learn love the hard way, Emily, and now you have." When dawn came, the house was still. I found Emily sitting at the kitchen table, her eyes swollen from crying, both kids asleep on the couch. She looked smaller somehow, as if the last few years had stripped away every ounce of pride. I poured 2 cups of coffee and sat across from her. The silence between us was thick years of anger, regret, and pain pressed into the space of a single breath. Finally, I said, "Tell me everything." She stared into her cup. "It started a year after the wedding," she said quietly. "Jake, he changed. He'd check my phone, tell me what to wear, where I could go. If I questioned him, he'd say I was being ungrateful. Then he started staying out late, always work dinners. I believed him until I found the messages." Her voice cracked, and the words tumbled out faster. "There's another woman, Mom. He's been seeing her for months. He told me she makes him feel free. Free." I closed my eyes. It was the same tone Sarah used when she described her own pain. Only this time I couldn't summon pity without tasting bitterness. "Emily," I said carefully, "I told you once if he cheated with you, he'd cheat on you." Her lip quivered. "I know," she whispered, "and I deserve it. I know I do." The confession stunned me. For the first time, there was no arrogance in her voice, no defiance, just a hollow acceptance. "I can't go back there," she said. "I don't have anyone else." Her words twisted something deep inside me. I thought of Sarah's soft laughter as a child, of Emily's fiery eyes when she defended her sister from bullies at school. Somewhere along the way, both of them had lost each other, and me with them. "You can stay here for now," I said finally, "but we'll have to talk to your father." And Sarah. The moment I said her sister's name, Emily's face crumpled. "She'll never forgive me." "She doesn't have to," I replied, "but I do need to tell her." Later that afternoon, I called Sarah. My hands shook the whole time. When she answered, her voice was calm but wary. "Mom, everything okay?" "I need you to come over," I said. "There's something I have to tell you." When she arrived, she immediately noticed the toys in the hallway, the baby carrier, the small shoes near the door. Her expression darkened. "She's here, isn't she?" I nodded. Sarah stood there for a long moment, her jaw tight. "Why?" "Because she has nowhere else to go." "Mom." Her voice broke slightly. "You can't be serious. After what she did after him, you're letting her stay here." "She has children, Sarah," I said softly. I couldn't turn them away. Her hands trembled. "You're choosing her again." "No, I'm choosing compassion," I said, though my own voice shook. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Do you know what it's like to wake up every night from nightmares of them together, to wonder what I did wrong? You think I can just pretend she didn't ruin my life?" I wanted to hold her, to promise her it would all make sense someday. But I couldn't lie. "I'm not asking you to forgive her," I said. "I'm asking you to trust me." She took a deep breath, her shoulders trembling. "I can't, Mom. Not this time." She turned to leave, but before she walked out, she said quietly, "You're risking me to save her. Don't lose us both." When the door closed, I sank into a chair and buried my face in my hands. I could still hear her words echoing, "Don't lose us both." That night, Thomas and I sat on opposite sides of the couch. He looked exhausted. "We can't keep her here," he said finally. "Sarah's right. It'll destroy her." "So what do we do?" He rubbed his temples. "We help her find a place to stay. Somewhere close enough for the kids, but not here." I hated that it made sense. "She'll see it as rejection," I said. "She'll have to," he replied. "We can't fix this for her." The next morning, I told Emily our decision. I spoke gently, but her eyes filled with betrayal before I even finished. "You're kicking me out," she whispered. "No, we're helping you get your own place. We'll cover the first month's rent and help you get set up, but you can't stay here. Not with everything that's happened." Her voice rose. "You're still choosing Sarah." "I'm choosing peace, Emily," I said firmly. "We can't all live under the same roof, not yet." Her expression hardened, tears welling. "You think you're punishing me, but you're just proving what I've always known: you love her more." Thomas, who had been silent until then, stood abruptly. "Enough. Don't you dare twist this. You destroyed your sister's life, and your mother is still trying to save yours. Maybe start by being grateful." Emily's lower lip trembled. She grabbed her coat, mumbling something I couldn't catch, and ran out, slamming the door behind her. For a moment, the silence was unbearable. Then I whispered, "Did we do the right thing?" Thomas stared out the window, his voice low. "There's no right thing anymore, just what hurts least." That night, I lay awake again. The rain had started tapping gently against the glass, and I could see the faint glow of the streetlight through the curtains. I thought about Sarah's trembling voice, Emily's hollow eyes, Thomas's quiet despair. My family was still broken, just in a new shape. I got up, poured myself a glass of water, and looked out at the dark road. Somewhere out there, my daughter, once the pride of my heart, was starting over in the ruins she built herself. And for the first time, I didn't feel angry, just unbearably tired. For a while, things were eerily calm. Emily moved into a small apartment across town, the kind of place that smelled faintly of damp paint and loneliness. Thomas and I helped her get settled, paid the first month's rent, even stocked her fridge with the basics. She thanked us quietly, but I could feel resentment simmering under her gratitude, like a child forced to say thank you through gritted teeth. A week later, the calls began. At first, they were small things, questions about paperwork, daycare, or bills. Then came the complaints. The apartment's too small. The neighbors are loud. The water pressure's terrible. One night, she called crying, her voice cracking through the phone. "Mom, I can't do this. The kids deserve better than this dump." I tried to sound calm. "Emily, it's temporary. You'll find a job soon and things will get easier." "I've been applying," she snapped, "but no one wants to hire a single mom with gaps in her resume." Her frustration hit me like déjà vu, every word reminding me of the arrogance she once used to justify taking her sister's husband. Only now it was wrapped in desperation. "I know it's hard," I said gently, "but you have to keep going. No one else can do this for you." There was a long pause. Then she said quietly, "That's easy for you to say. You still have Dad." I didn't know how to answer. After that, the calls came daily. Some ended in tears, others in silence. Sometimes I heard the kids in the background, one crying, one laughing. Their tiny voices softened my anger every time. But it was wearing me down. I found myself walking on eggshells again, just like before. Thomas noticed. "You're letting her pull you back in," he said one evening while washing the dishes. "She's my daughter," I whispered. "She's also an adult," he replied, his voice heavy. "If you keep saving her, she'll never stand on her own." He was right, but knowing that didn't make it easier. Alex was less patient. When he found out we were still helping Emily with groceries and bills, he exploded. "Why are you bending over backward for her?" he demanded. "She doesn't care about anyone but herself. She never has." "Alex, no, Mom. I watched Sarah cry herself to sleep because of her. And now you're acting like Emily's the victim." "She's not the victim," I said softly. "She's the consequence." He stared at me angry and confused. "Then stop treating her like a child who just made a mistake." He left before I could reply. That night, I sat alone in the living room with a box of old photos, birthdays, Christmas mornings, family vacations. In every picture, Emily was smiling. She had her father's charm, Sarah's warmth. Looking at them now, I realized something painful. She had always needed more love than anyone else in the room, and we'd never noticed. The next morning, my phone buzzed again. Emily. Her voice was shaky. "I ruined everything, Mom," she said, almost whispering. "My marriage, my family, everything. I don't even know who I am anymore." For a moment, my heart softened. Maybe this was her turning point. You can rebuild, Emily, but you have to take responsibility. You can't heal while blaming everyone else. She was silent for a few seconds, then said bitterly, "If Jake hadn't treated me like garbage, I wouldn't be here. And if Sarah had forgiven me, maybe things wouldn't be so bad." My chest tightened. I closed my eyes, exhaling slowly. "Emily, stop. Please. This isn't about them anymore. It's about you." She didn't answer. The line went dead. That evening, Thomas found me sitting on the porch again, staring at the road. "She called again," he asked. I nodded. He sat beside me. "You can't keep doing this, Amanda. She's got to want to change." I didn't answer. The crickets chirped in the distance, the sound of a world that kept turning, even when ours didn't. Days passed. Then, one evening, near dusk, I heard a car door slam outside. When I opened the front door, Emily was standing there, again tired, disheveled, her children clinging to her legs. "Mom, I need to stay here. Just for a few nights," she said. "Please." The words hit like a storm. "Emily, we've talked about this," I said. "You can't stay here. Not after everything it does to Sarah." She looked at me, eyes wide and red. "I don't know what else to do. I'm drowning, Mom. I'm trying, but nothing's working." Her voice cracked into sobs, raw and pleading. My instinct screamed to pull her in to hold her, but I couldn't. Not again. "We'll help you find more support," I said softly, forcing the words past the lump in my throat. "But you can't stay here." Her face twisted with hurt. "So that's it. You're just giving up on me." I swallowed hard. "I'm not giving up. I'm letting you find your own way." Her eyes hardened, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You always find a way to make abandonment sound noble." She turned and walked back to her car. The kids looked back at me from the window, confused, innocent. I waved softly. They didn't wave back. That night I couldn't sleep. The sound of her voice, her desperation, kept replaying in my head. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I'd failed her all over again. But then I thought of Sarah, the trembling voice, the hollow eyes, the nights she'd slept on my shoulder, whispering, "Why did she do it, Mom?" And I realized no matter how much I wanted to fix everything, some wounds weren't mine to heal. So the next morning I wrote Emily a message. "I love you, but I can't be your safety net anymore. You have to stand up on your own. When you do, I'll be here." She never replied. But a week later, my phone buzzed with a new voicemail. Her voice was distant, almost cold. "You'll regret this, Mom. You think you're helping, but you're not. You'll see." The line ended with silence, and for the first time in years, I didn't call back. I just sat there, letting the quiet fill the house like a ghost finally leaving. Time has a strange way of dulling sharp edges, not by erasing them, but by teaching you to stop running your hands along the blade. Months passed, then a year. The storm that had nearly torn us apart finally began to settle into a cold, uneasy calm. Emily didn't call much after that voicemail. When she did, her tone was different, tired, almost subdued. She had finally found steady work at a local grocery store. "It's not glamorous," she said once, "but it pays for rent." There was no self-pity this time, just quiet acceptance. I saw her occasionally, usually on weekends when she'd drop off the kids for a few hours. They were growing fast, bright-eyed, curious, untouched by the sins of the adults around them. Every time I watched them play on the living room rug, laughter spilling out like sunlight, a part of me wondered if this was the universe's small mercy, that innocence could still exist among the ruins. Jake was gone. He'd moved out of state with his new girlfriend, leaving Emily to pick up what was left of her life. She didn't mention him often, except once when she said I finally signed the divorce papers. I thought I'd feel broken, but all I felt was free. She smiled when she said it, a faint, fragile smile, but real. For the first time in years, I saw the little girl I used to know. Meanwhile, Sarah was blooming. Therapy had given her tools to breathe again, to trust again. She got promoted at work, started painting commissions, and even began dating a man named Nathan, a gentle, patient soul who adored her. The first night she brought him to dinner, Thomas and I exchanged glances across the table. There was something different about the way she looked at him. No fear, no second-guessing, just quiet peace. After dinner, she helped me clean up in the kitchen. "You like him, don't you?" she asked. I smiled. "He's kind, and you deserve kind." She nodded, then hesitated. "You still talk to Emily?" "Sometimes," I admitted, "mostly about the kids." Her expression tightened for a second, then softened. "That's good. For them." It was the closest thing to forgiveness she'd said aloud. Later that night, after everyone left, I stood by the sink watching the streetlights flicker outside. For the first time in years, I felt something unfamiliar: peace. Not complete, not perfect, but peace all the same. Then came the day I didn't expect: a family funeral. A distant cousin. I went with Thomas, unaware that both my daughters had decided to come too. When I saw them, Sarah in black standing near the back, Emily clutching her youngest's hand near the front, my heart stuttered. They hadn't seen each other in 4 years. The air in that church was heavy. I could feel Sarah's body tense as she realized Emily was there. Emily froze too, eyes wide, lips parting like she wanted to speak but couldn't. After the service outside in the drizzle, they came face to face for the first time. No one spoke at first. Then Emily stepped closer. "Sarah," she whispered, her voice shaking, "I'm sorry." It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic. It was small, raw, and human. Sarah stood still, eyes glistening. For a heartbeat, I thought she'd turn away, but she didn't. She just looked at her sister, the one who had stolen her husband, broken her trust, and shattered her heart, and said softly, "I know." Then she turned and walked toward her car. Emily watched her go, tears spilling quietly down her face. She didn't chase her this time. I stood there in the rain, holding my umbrella, realizing that maybe that was enough. Maybe I know was as close as forgiveness could ever come in this life. That evening, I sat by the window with a cup of tea. The sound of rain tapping the glass reminded me of that night long ago when Emily had shown up with her children. Except now there was no fear, no pleading, just reflection. I thought about the kind of love mothers are cursed with, the kind that makes you hold on even when it hurts, the kind that refuses to die even when your heart begs it to. Thomas came in quietly and placed a hand on my shoulder. "You did everything you could," he said. "They'll find their own way." "I hope so," I whispered. "I just wish I'd taught them better about love." He smiled faintly. "Maybe you did. They just had to learn the hard way." Outside, the rain slowed, and I could hear laughter from the next room, Emily's children playing. Their joy was a sound I hadn't heard in this house for years. I went to the doorway and watched them twirl around the rug, giggling. For a moment, I imagined Sarah's kids playing with them someday, maybe not now, maybe not soon, but maybe. And I thought perhaps that's what healing looks like. Not reunion, not apologies, but the quiet hope that pain doesn't have to last forever. I smiled through the ache, whispering to myself, maybe this is enough. Then, almost without meaning to, I looked at the family photo on the mantel. The one that had cracked years ago after Emily's betrayal. I'd glued it back together long ago, but the fracture lines still ran between the sisters' faces. Funny thing is, it didn't bother me anymore. Some breaks don't need to disappear to prove they've healed.